Not every mask hides a lie. Some hide a truth too powerful to face. Welcome to Stoic Valor, where words are not merely sounds, but tools to forge your inner strength, sharpen your reason, and remind you that self-mastery is the highest form of freedom. Tonight, while the world puts on costumes, paints faces, and embraces the thrill of illusion, a Stoic would sit in quiet reflection. He would not reject the laughter, nor judge the spectacle, but he would look deeper. He would ask, why do we enjoy becoming someone else, even for a night? Halloween is the perfect metaphor for the human condition. We wear masks every day, not of paint or fabric, but of ego, fear, and pretense. We hide behind identities we've built to protect ourselves from judgment or rejection. Epictetus once said, "It is not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters." Yet what happens within us when we forget who we truly are beneath the roles we play? A Stoic, observing the world on this night of disguises, would see more than celebration. He would see an ancient truth, that the greatest illusion is the one we live daily, the illusion that we are what others see. Seneca wrote, "We suffer more often in imagination than in reality." What he meant was not merely that we overthink, but that our imagined selves, the masks we craft, become prisons. We perform success to appear strong, display happiness to conceal emptiness, and pursue applause to quiet insecurity. But each layer of disguise distances us further from peace. Imagine Marcus Aurelius walking through Rome during one of its great festivals. Around him, citizens donning masks, music echoing through the marble streets. He would smile, but his thoughts would be elsewhere. In his meditations, he wrote, "You could leave life right now. Let that determine what you do and say and think." For Marcus, every moment of life, even a celebration, was a chance to return to the truth of the self, that nothing external defines the soul. And yet, that is exactly what Halloween invites us to forget, that beneath the costumes, beneath the laughter, there remains the self that must one day remove the mask. A Stoic would not hide from this realization. He would confront it with calm curiosity. Why do we fear being seen as we are? Why do we crave transformation through disguise instead of transformation through discipline? Ryan Holiday, in The Obstacle is the Way, wrote, "The impediment to action advances action. What stands in the way becomes the way." To a Stoic, the discomfort of facing one's real face, one's true nature, is not an obstacle, but a doorway. The courage to be authentic is the purest act of strength. Modern culture celebrates the act of becoming richer, prettier, more admired. But Stoicism teaches the art of being. To be unmoved by praise or criticism, to remain centered as the world spins its illusions, is to live freely. So while the streets are filled with laughter and masquerade, a Stoic might light a candle in silence, not as a ritual of isolation, but of insight. He might meditate on how often he's worn masks to gain acceptance, how many times he's traded authenticity for approval. He would ask himself, am I the person I pretend to be, or am I still the one striving to become better? Epictetus reminded his students, know first who you are, and then adorn yourself accordingly. In other words, dress your character before you dress your body. Halloween, to a Stoic, becomes not a night of escapism, but a mirror reflecting our attachment to illusion. Even our fears, the ghosts and monsters that populate this night, carry symbolic weight. The Stoics believed fear was a judgment, an interpretation of events rather than a truth. When a child sees a shadow and imagines a monster, It is not the shadow that frightens, it is the belief. Similarly, most adults live haunted not by spirits, but by their own unexamined thoughts. Seneca urged us to remember he suffers more than necessary. Who suffers before it is necessary. How often do we create monsters in the mind, fears of loss, failure or rejection, that exist only because we allow them to? Thus Halloween becomes an allegory. The masks represent the identities we cling to, the monsters, our irrational fears, the darkness, the unknown we refuse to explore within ourselves. A Stoic would walk through this symbolic night and see not chaos, but meaning. He would see people fleeing from their reflection, and he would whisper to himself, "Tonight I will not run. I will face my own shadows, because to live as a Stoic is not to reject life's theater, it is to understand it." The Stoic sits in the audience of existence, observing both comedy and tragedy without losing himself in either. Marcus Aurelius once compared life to a play. "Remember," he wrote, "that you are an actor in a drama, of such a kind as the author chooses." The Stoic does not choose his role, but he chooses how to perform it with integrity, dignity, and awareness that when the curtain falls, only character remains. So while others dress up tonight to escape themselves, the Stoic practices the art of unmasking. He removes the disguise of pride and replaces it with humility. He removes the mask of fear and replaces it with courage. He removes the costume of vanity and replaces it with purpose. To him, every moment is an opportunity for transformation, not through illusion, but through awareness. If Epictetus were alive today, he might say, "Dress up if you must. But remember, the real costume is the one you wear every day, when you hide from your own potential." And if Seneca saw our modern world, he would likely write about how easily people are lost in roles that society assigns them. Successful professional, perfect parent, tireless achiever. But as he reminded us, to be everywhere is to be nowhere. A Stoic does not spread himself thin across countless identities. He returns again and again to the stillness of self-knowledge. Halloween, then, is not a night to condemn, but to reinterpret. It is a living metaphor for human folly and a chance to awaken from it. When the mask comes off and the laughter fades, the Stoic asks, "Who am I when no one is watching?" Because that is where the real power lies, not in how we appear, but in who we choose to be. There's something almost poetic about watching the world wear masks. The colors, the laughter, the performances. It reminds us that humanity has always been a species of actors. Yet the Stoic stands among them, calm, observant, and intentional. He does not condemn the play, but he refuses to lose himself in it. He knows that when dawn arrives, every painted face must be washed clean, every costume returned to the closet, and every illusion faced in the quiet of one's own reflection. So what would a Stoic do on Halloween? How would he move, think, and act while the world celebrates the art of disguise? He would begin not with judgment, but with observation. The Stoic's first tool is awareness. Epictetus taught that we are disturbed not by things, but by our interpretation of them. So the Stoic would observe the noise, the masks, the chaos, and rather than calling it foolish or vain, he would ask, "What can I learn from this?" The answer, everything. Because Halloween, like life itself, is a stage where people reveal their inner nature by pretending to be someone else. The costume they choose says something about what they crave, fear, or admire. The child who dresses as a hero longs for courage. The adult who becomes a monster may be expressing a shadow long repressed. The Stoic sees all of this and smiles, not out of superiority, but out of understanding. He sees the lesson that beneath the surface, we are all yearning to become something we are not yet. And that yearning, if directed inward rather than outward, is the birthplace of transformation. So he begins his practice. While the world rushes out into the streets, the Stoic sits with a journal. He writes, not what costume he will wear, but what mask he must remove. He asks himself 3 questions. First, what false identity have I been defending? Second, what fear am I hiding behind this identity? Third, what would my life look like if I had the courage to live without that mask? These questions are not easy. They demand brutal honesty, and that is precisely why most people will never ask them. But the Stoic knows that the hardest questions are the ones that free the soul. Seneca wrote, "We become wise by resisting pleasure, and strong by resisting pain." The Stoic resists the pleasure of illusion and the pain of self-deception. He knows that truth, though uncomfortable, is liberating. He practices simplicity. While others buy costumes, he reflects on minimalism, not in the aesthetic sense, but in the moral one. He strips away excess desires. He reduces his attachments. He lives with less so he can be more. Epictetus said, "Wealth consists not in having great possessions, but in having few wants." The Stoic sees Halloween spending sprees, decorations, indulgence, and he smiles again. He knows that joy cannot be bought, that peace does not come wrapped in a mask or drenched in glitter. He might join the celebration, yes, but with presence, not indulgence. If he wears a costume, he does so consciously, aware that it is temporary. When he removes it, he remembers, so are all his external roles. A Stoic mother might reflect on the patience she wears as a mask, hiding exhaustion behind a smile. A Stoic man might realize that his pride is another costume, designed to protect him from vulnerability. In this awareness, transformation begins. The Stoic practices detachment, not from people, but from illusions. He does not reject joy, but he refuses to anchor his peace to it. Ryan Holiday reminds us, ego is the enemy. The Stoic understands that ego is just another mask, one that whispers, "You are what you own. You are what they think." But the truth is quieter, humbler. You are what you choose to be when no one applauds. So the Stoic develops habits that strengthen his inner clarity. Every morning, he greets the day with silence. He breathes, grounds himself, and remembers Marcus Aurelius's reminder. When you arise in the morning, think of what a privilege it is to be alive, to think, to enjoy, to love. This practice keeps him anchored, even as the world around him pretends. Throughout the day, he performs small acts of awareness. He notices when he speaks to impress rather than to connect. He pauses before reacting to irritation or judgment. He replaces gossip with gratitude, comparison with compassion. These are not grand gestures. They are quiet revolutions. Each small act of awareness strips away another layer of illusion. Slowly, the Stoic becomes lighter, freer, more authentic. He might practice the art of negative visualization, imagining loss not to feel despair, but to cultivate gratitude. When he sees children laughing in costumes, he appreciates the innocence of joy, knowing that someday those moments will exist only as memories. He cherishes without clinging. He might end his evening with journaling, reflecting on his actions with humility. What masks did I wear today? Which of them helped me grow? Which must I discard tomorrow? And in those quiet pages, wisdom accumulates, not from books or quotes, but from living truthfully. Halfway through this journey, if this message resonates with you, if it feels like these words are touching something real within you, then remember this: if this message is resonating with you, Don't forget to subscribe to Stoic Valor, because here we don't just reflect, we transform. Now, let's continue deeper. Imagine a modern story. A young man named Daniel. Every year on Halloween, he throws the biggest party in his neighborhood. The music, the costumes, the attention, it gives him a sense of worth. But deep down he feels emptiness. The morning after the party, when the decorations are gone and the laughter fades, he stares at himself in the mirror, unable to recognize the man beneath the smile. 1 year, something changes. He finds an old book, Meditations by Marcus Aurelius. He reads the words, "Waste no more time arguing what a good man should be. Be one." That night, instead of hosting a party, he takes a quiet walk. He watches others celebrate and feels a strange peace. For the first time, he doesn't need to be seen. He feels whole in silence. That's Stoicism in action. The transformation happens not when the world changes, but when the self no longer needs to hide from truth. Robin Sharma once said, "The smallest of actions is always better than the noblest of intentions." The Stoic applies this daily. He does not wait for perfect clarity before acting with virtue. He knows that integrity is built moment by moment, decision by decision. He learns to see through others' masks with compassion. When he encounters arrogance, he sees insecurity beneath it. When he witnesses cruelty, he recognizes fear. He understands that people wear masks, not because they are evil, but because they are afraid of being unloved without them. The Stoic refuses to hate the mask. He seeks to heal the fear that created it. In doing so, he becomes unshakable, not cold but steady, not detached, but deeply alive. Even in the noise of a world intoxicated by illusion, he remains grounded, because he knows that peace is not found in escaping the world. It's found in mastering the self within it. The Stoic practices 3 silent disciplines. Perception. See things as they are. Not worse, not better, simply true. Action. Do what is right, not what is easy. Will. Accept what you cannot control and love what fate brings. These 3 pillars hold the Stoic steady, even as others chase approval or pleasure. So when the night ends, when the costumes come off and reality returns, the Stoic feels gratitude. Gratitude for the illusion that reminded him of truth. Gratitude for the laughter that made him human. Gratitude for the stillness that follows the noise. Because he knows that wisdom isn't about rejecting the world. It's about walking through it without losing yourself. Halloween, in the eyes of the Stoic, becomes a sacred teacher. It shows us our collective addiction to appearance, but also our shared longing for transformation. The Stoic chooses to transform not by becoming someone else, but by returning to who he was always meant to be. When the mask falls, only truth remains, and truth is never ugly to the eyes that have learned to see. As the night fades, the laughter dissolves into silence. Streets once alive with color and noise are now quiet. The discarded masks lie scattered across the ground, symbols of something deeper, something we all must face. This is where the Stoic finds his lesson, not in the celebration but in the aftermath, because life itself is a series of masks we must learn to remove. Titles, reputations, desires, fears. One by one they fall away until only the essence remains. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "Look within. Within is the fountain of good, and it will ever bubble up if thou wilt ever dig." That digging, that daily excavation of the soul, is the work of the Stoic. It's not glamorous. It doesn't earn applause, but it's the kind of work that makes a man unshakable. When the Stoic looks at his own reflection, he doesn't seek perfection. He seeks truth. He knows that to be human is to err, to stumble, to pretend, but also to awaken. Every false identity he sheds becomes a step toward freedom. Freedom for the Stoic isn't about doing whatever he wants. It's about wanting only what is right. In a world obsessed with image, the Stoic's quiet integrity becomes his rebellion. While others measure worth through appearance, he measures it through alignment between what he believes, what he says, and what he does. Seneca said, "A good character, when established, is not easily overthrown." That's the kind of strength the Stoic builds, internal fortitude that no disguise can replace. So when the masks come off, both literal and metaphorical, the Stoic stands firm. He doesn't need to perform anymore. He doesn't need the costume of confidence because he has earned it through discipline. He doesn't need the disguise of success because he defines success by virtue, not vanity. This doesn't mean the Stoic rejects the world's joys. He still laughs, still celebrates, still lives, but he does it consciously. He knows joy is richer when it isn't an escape, but an expression of harmony with reality. In the soft light of dawn, the Stoic reflects. What did this night reveal? What illusions still hold him captive? What fears still whisper behind his reason? He knows the work never ends. Each day demands renewal. As Marcus Aurelius said, waste no more time arguing what a good man should be. Be one, so he lives simply. He greets others without judgment. He serves where he can. He practices gratitude, not as a feeling, but as a form of awareness, seeing the ordinary as sacred. And when adversity comes, as it always does, he does not reach for a mask. He meets it face to face. He remembers Epictetus's counsel. Don't seek for everything to happen as you wish it would, but rather wish that everything happens as it actually will, and your life will flow well. That's the Stoic's secret. He does not run from life, nor does he chase illusion. He accepts the world as it is and transforms himself in response, while everyone else dresses up to escape themselves. The Stoic strips away everything false to return home, to the quiet center of being where no costume is needed. It's here that the Stoic finds peace, not in what he owns, or how he looks, or how the world perceives him, but in the still, steady knowing that he is enough, just as he is, striving toward virtue. He understands now that life is its own Halloween. Each day, people step into roles where masks of certainty and confidence, but only the wise dare to remove them. The Stoic removes his gently, layer by layer, until only the soul remains. And that soul, once hidden beneath fear and ego, shines quietly, unafraid of being seen. Seneca once reminded us, "No man was ever wise by chance." Wisdom requires effort. It demands the courage to confront illusion, the humility to accept imperfection, and the discipline to choose truth over comfort. So, as the world wakes from its night of masquerade, the Stoic carries one final question in his heart, one that echoes through the ages. If I am not my mask, then who am I? The answer doesn't come in words, but in living. Every act of honesty, every moment of composure, every time we choose virtue over vanity, that's where the answer unfolds. The Stoic knows he cannot control the masks of others, but he can remove his own. He cannot control how the world celebrates, but he can control how he interprets it. He cannot control chaos, but he can bring order to his mind, and that's enough. Because when the lights fade, when the stage empties, when all disguises are gone, what remains is the measure of character, the only thing death cannot strip away. So tonight, as the last mask falls and silence returns, remember this: the Stoic would not condemn the celebration nor escape it. He would smile, breathe deeply, and whisper to himself, "Let them play their parts. I will play mine, with wisdom, courage, and grace." He would return home, not to scroll through photos or count likes, but to sit quietly and write. A few simple lines: "I practiced temperance today. I spoke kindly when provoked. I saw through illusion and returned to truth." That's the Stoic's victory, not over others, but over himself, because in a world obsessed with appearance, authenticity is the rarest costume of all, and maybe, just maybe, that's what Halloween was meant to remind us of, not how to become someone else, but how to remember who we are. So as the candle burns low and darkness deepens, the Stoic sits peacefully in the flicker of light, knowing that even in the shadow, there is clarity. He doesn't chase the next distraction. He doesn't seek applause. He simply lives, steadfast, grateful, awake, and that in the end is what separates the Stoic from the masquerade. Not the absence of fear, but the presence of truth. Not the rejection of the world, but the mastery of the self. Not the perfection of the mask, but the courage to remove it. If this reflection has awakened something within you, if you felt even a moment of stillness, of clarity, then remember this. If this message helped you see with new eyes, help us share it. Subscribe to Stoic Valor, and together let's walk this path of virtue, discipline, and quiet strength. Because the world doesn't need more noise, it needs more wisdom. And with that, the Stoic's night ends, not in noise, but in peace. Because while everyone else dresses up to escape themselves, the Stoic undresses the soul to meet truth face to face.